Cool. It's on pause, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Can you press play again?
Press pause and play.
Who's operating?
Me.
I'm not.
Yeah, there you go. Try that.
There it is.
Can we take this screen off and have the first slide of the...
No, it's either one or the other.
Oh, it doesn't matter. At least it acknowledges the music, so that's cool.
We assume no one else has joined because there's no one.
They're just all joining now, Anna. You can see down in the participants. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, it's right on 10, but we might just wait a couple more seconds for a few more people who are jumping on board. Okay, so I think we might start now, everyone. So hello, everybody, and welcome to AceFix Learn Local Bite session on mindfulness practice in adult and community education. It's great to see you all here. I hope you're all well and that you're travelling okay. If I haven't met you before, my name is Tamsin and I'm the Executive Officer for AceFic. So thank you for joining us today, and also a warm welcome to any ACFI board members or AceFic board members that may also be with us today. So this is the second series of professional development which will take us up to the end of this year, that's sponsored by the ACFI board, who have been working really hard on ensuring that you've all been supported during this testing and unpredictable and what's become quite a long year. So the board acknowledge the need for both professional development as well as wellbeing support for all of you and your learners during these challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic year. So that's why the focus of today's session is on mindfulness practice in Learn Locals, to help with resilience and the support for educators, and the flow-on effect of this support is also how you can share mindfulness strategies with your learners. So it's my pleasure to welcome your presenter for today, who's Anna Loffrey, who has a wealth of experience in teaching mindfulness practice. Anna has a postgraduate degree in social work and also a master's degree in community cultural development. And for over 30 years, she's held a range of positions from social worker to consultant in both the not-for-profit and local and state government arenas. And Anna currently works as a staff engagement advisor for an aged care provider and also as a manager of a community centre in Melbourne's Inner West. So central to Anna's approach is a respect for the qualities of curiosity, gentleness and directness. And in her work, Anna uses a variety of mindfulness techniques, which she'll share with you today to encourage deeper connections and opportunities for learning and growth. So Anna's going to do the acknowledgement to country today. So I will now pass you over to Anna. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to share the screen. So I'm just, there we go. All right. You can see me? You can hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I
can hear you, but we can't see your shared screen.
Okay, sorry. I'll just work out how that is going to happen. I'm sorry. I don't know how that just... So, just need to get back and show.
Do you want me to share it, Anna?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, no worries.
Would that mean I won't have the...
you can say next slide, I think, Laura.
Next slide. All right, yep. Thanks, Laura.
No worries.
All right, okay, so hi everyone. It's funny saying everyone, and I can only see Laura and Tamsin in the little boxes on the right. So I'm just going to trust that there are people out there, and yeah, thanks for coming along today. Okay, so the acknowledgement of country. I'm presenting today from my home in Geelong in Victoria, hence I'd specifically like to acknowledge the Wathaurong people as the traditional owners and ongoing custodians of this land that I'm on. As one of over 500 different clan groups or nations across Australia, I'd like to recognise the Wathaurong people's continuing connection and love for the land, for the water and for culture. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past, over 60,000 years, the elders present and the elders emerging. So, next screen. All right, so basically this is the topic of today's session, mindfulness techniques and strategies for local managers, trainers, to support your own and your learners' well-being. Next slide. So what I want to do as a grounding activity just to begin with is just ask you to, if it's comfortable, sitting in your seat now, just close your eyes and allow any remnants of rushing, of organising, of everything you had to do to be here now. Let that all sort of pour into your mind. And then as much as possible for you, let it belong and let it go. Next slide. Now this is a second grounding technique. The next slide, sorry. Yep. So this is number 2, grounding technique. It's a great way to be able to just get people placed, you know, The previous one was a sort of an acceptance that you had a whole lot of stuff that was happening before you joined this session. And that's okay, and it needs to belong. You don't want to fight, you don't want to struggle with it. You want to just bring some compassion to it. And just while I first mention the word compassion, a really interesting thing I recently found out was that compassion is, in Latin derivation, it means with struggle. So you are with the struggle. That is okay. Don't fight against it. So the second grounding technique is, if you can think, just sit down, or as you're seated, 5 things that you can see. Just look around you. What 5 things you can see? Don't just mention them in your own mind. Name them as you see them. 4 things you can feel. Might be your feet on the ground. There's no right or wrong with this. If you don't get to 4, you don't get to 4. 3 things you can hear. This one can be a bit trickier. Or maybe not for some. 2 things you can smell. Again, you might not have smells wafting into your room where you are now, or you might be in the kitchen and smell the remains of breakfast. 1 thing you can taste. Might be a good time to have a sip of water if you've got one in front of you. Okay, so that's just bringing us to the range of the senses that we have that bring us into the present moment. So next slide. All right, so introduction. This will go for this session, hopefully will go for 45 minutes, no longer. 45, 50, depending on how much time we've got left, but I really will endeavour to finish it on time at 11. And I really want to have 5 minutes at least at the end for questions. No previous mindfulness experience is necessary or training, so just come at it as fresh as you can. Expect this session to be highly interactive. I really hope that you will find it within yourself to, you've brought yourself here, so you'll get more out of it if you can put into it. And I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. Yeah, don't worry about that. Lots of practical tips for you to be able to take activities from the session home with you or to your workplaces. I will share the PowerPoint with Laura and Tamsin so that they can forward it on to you. So don't feel like you need to write notes unless particular thoughts come to you, and then yeah, go right ahead. Okay, so this focus is on fitness. I know that sounds strange. Most of us think fitness in the physical realm, but it's just as important in the mental realm and in the emotional realm. So just think fitness. This is a bit of a workout, but it's not a boot camp. The context is your relationships, your personal and your professional relationships. So that's where we're coming from in thinking about in the discussions that we'll be having today, or the content. As I said before, participation is great, but it's not compulsory. So only if you feel comfortable. There will be a few times when I'll ask for contributions in the chat box, and there'll be a couple of short polls. So that will be the extent of the participation, other than hopefully staying on board to the end. You may experience a range of emotions during the session. It depends, it may trigger stuff, it may not. I've just lost the shared screen. So, okay. Or have I just, that's it, good. We're still on the introductions. Thanks, Laura. So what else was I going to say there? Yeah, so look after yourself. If emotions come up that feel a bit uncomfortable, just be gentle with yourself. If you need to time out for a minute, do that. But please reach out to get the support that you need. Yeah, use it as an opportunity to connect with yourself and with other people that you trust. So a bit of a fast pace, so I'm going to get on with it and really hope you enjoy the ride. So first up, Laura is going to ask a couple of questions for the first poll, just so I can get, or you can get also a bit of an understanding of who is here. So I'm asking about whether you're regional or metro based, whether you are management training or admin, and how many years you've been in the sector. So if you could just enter your responses to those questions now, we can speak to them, or we can share them and get a sense of who's here. We'll just give you a minute or so to complete those questions. Again, if people, you know, taking me by my word, and it's not compulsory to contribute to the polls or the chats, we might not get all of the stats, but we'll get a sense of it.
We're very close to getting everybody that have answered, Anna.
Fantastic. Okay. So just when you're ready, Laura, just let us know what those results were. Be really interested to see.
Just sharing those now.
Okay. So hoping everyone can see what I can see. All right, so we've got twice as many people from the metro area as regional. Pretty even share of management and trainers. And great to see some admin staff as well. And I'm just looking to see on my screen how long people have been here for. So I've got two who've been here in the community sector for over 20 years. Fantastic. Good on you. And some newbies. 3 people have been just in for the last couple of years. Okay, so but yeah, more of you have been for 2 to 5. But thank you for those who've been here for over 20. Thank you for the work that you do. It's a challenging sector to be a part of. So, but it's good to have the wisdom of, you know, being a bit of a old hand, but also the freshness of being new to the sector. So thank both ends and everyone in between. Okay, so I just close that screen. All right. Okay, next screen. Can't be saying that a few times. All right, defining mindfulness. Try to find the simplest way of describing this, and I want to define it now so that what we're doing in terms of the activities through the session, you'll come back to this definition and start to understand. At the moment, it seems maybe just theory, but perhaps you'll revisit it once the session is finished, when you get the PowerPoint, if you want the PowerPoint, and just go, right, okay, I now understand what that's saying. But sow this seed that defining mindfulness is about your ability to be aware of and notice what's going on in and around you, us, in the moment, with an attitude of curiosity, compassion, and courage. No more complicated, no less complicated. Next screen. So today's session is divided into two sections. And I use the yin yang symbol, not just because I used to be a hippie. Oh, well, perhaps I'm still a little bit of a hippie, but because it just neatly puts together these two things that really form that definition I just said. So the questions are that we're looking at today are how to cultivate awareness in the current moment and how to cultivate an attitude of curiosity, compassion, and courage. Next screen. First one, part one, cultivating awareness in the current moment. May sound easy, but most of us who are living in the Western world, it's not so easy. You know, to a lot of people, it probably feels about as natural as standing on your head, which I think this kitten sort of defies. This is the beginning of the kitten or cat pictures. I do like cats, so I hope you do too, and apologies in advance for dog lovers. Next screen. Okay, in terms of tapping into our awareness of the current moment, I gave you a couple of suggestions about how to do that at the beginning with those grounding exercises, and I just want to give you some more examples here. So there's two ways. I'm going to first talk about how you can find an anchor point for you personally. Yep. And there's 4 ways I want to talk about that on the screen: counting, sensing, watching, and listening. Counting, some of you who are familiar with mindfulness will know that for beginners right across to experienced practitioners, the counting method is great. It is just very practical, very accessible, and it does what these are aiming to do: anchor you in that present. So you can. It's about counting your breaths. It's not just counting willy-nilly, but counting your breaths. You can do it when you're seated or lying down. You can do it when you're walking. When you're walking, though, counting your breaths with your steps is a very useful mindfulness practice. So with each in-breath, out-breath, you take one step and another. So counting, often cycles of 10 are good. So 1 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, 3 on the in-breath, 4 on the out-breath, etc. You can do that just while you're listening, if you like. Some people also find it more challenging, and the more challenging the counting is, the more you're likely to keep focusing on it. So another more challenging thing to do is to count from, if you've got enough time, 100 back to 1. One of the most important things with any mindfulness practice is to not feel like you're getting it right or wrong. Just if you lose concentration, if your thoughts start disappearing, distracting you, just go back to 1. Or if it was 100, go back to 100. Just again and again and again, returning to the present moment. Sensing, if this works for you, you might be more of a sensory person. Right now, just bring your palms face down on your chest with a focus on your breath. Just pay attention to the sensation of the air as it's coming into your lungs, through your mouth into your lungs, through your mouth or through your nose. Ideally through your nose, but not everyone can breathe through their nose comfortably. And just sensing your awareness of your breath as it moves through your body. Your hand on your chest is to feel that sensation of your chest going up and down with the in-breath and the out-breath. Another way to exaggerate this sensing technique of mindfulness is to what they call interrupt the breath, creating a pause at the top of the breath. So breathing in, potentially counting to 2 or 3, and then breathing out. If there's any swimmers amongst you, I think you'd probably be aware that that's often what you do to be able to get enough breath for the cycle of your stroke. If you're not a swimmer, you're going to have no idea what I was just talking about. Anyhow. Okay, we're going to do another practice a bit later on, so just hold the thinking about what these different techniques might feel like if you're not just hearing about them in theory, but just getting a wash of different techniques you can use. Watching is another mindfulness technique. Watching out the window, watching the sea, watching the trees, the leaves moving, rustling, watching the wind, whatever it's moving, clouds in the sky, just watching. Obviously, another really popular technique is listening, and that might be music of your choice in that moment, whatever the music is that you innately know you need to hear. And it could be very, very quiet, it could be very, very loud. Listening. Or it could be silence, or as close to silence as you can get. Okay, next slide. Emotional check-in. Now, I'm using this technique as a useful one, not necessarily to anchor you personally, as the previous slide was talking about, of counting, sensing, watching, listening. This one's about emotionally checking in on others, because it's a shared experience or shared activity. You're also checking in on yourself, but you're checking in on your teams, and your teams, as in your colleagues, or your learners if you're a trainer. So I think probably some of you would be familiar with the renaming of your screen name. Those 3 dots at the top of your image, and if you click on those 3 dots, the drop-down menu will reveal rename, and that gives you the opportunity to put your name in there as, I don't know, one word that just says where you're at right now, whatever that may be. Clearly that's not going to be of use to me or other people right now, because I can't see your screens. But in smaller groups where you have got the gallery view, then you get a very quick emotional check-in on where people are at. And a nice thing to be able to do is to use that rename option for a check-in at the beginning and at the end of a session. So to see whether there has been a shift, and the distraction of whatever the learning is shifts someone who may have been feeling a bit ordinary at the beginning of the session. But where we can't do that here, we're going to use the chat. And I'd like you to put 2 words in the chat box, if you will. just to say where you're at. More feeling words if possible, and if one feeling word describes where you're at sufficiently, fine. If you need to, then put those in now. So I'll just give you a minute to do that, which I can't see the chat.
I'll let you know as they come in.
Fantastic.
Anna, we've got motivated, excited, curious, stretched thin, calm, overwhelmed, stressed.
Oh my goodness. Yep.
Calm, uncertain, grateful, tired and relaxed.
Yeah, right.
Frustrated.
Gee. More tired. I'm actually seeing them now.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Oh, I love technology. Relaxed. There's quite a range. I really feel for the ones who are overwhelmed in particular. So good on you for being here, those people.
Yeah.
Good on everyone for being here. But
and I'd also, last week we had Dr. Stephen Carbone present a session as well, and he actually gave us some reference materials and resources for some of those people that are feeling really stressed and overwhelmed as well. So just a little reminder about that too.
Great. Okay, and I just want to explain too, when I ask in this particular activity for you to put 2 feeling words, not insist, as I mentioned before. If one feels enough, fine, but particularly asking 2, me asking that of you now, you asking it of someone, or a group, or staff members, or your learners, giving the option of 2, or sowing the seed of 2, allows people to put what can be contradictory emotions, because particularly like what we've been going through this year, there can be a lot of conflictual emotions, like sort of angry and sad. You can't choose between the 2. You know, anxious and I'm trying to think of some pairs that work well, but basically when you can't choose between 2, but both need to exist. So it is a good instruction to ask people to put 2 in, as I say, only if they need to. Okay. Just a little helpful hint too. Using the chat, which I'm suspecting you're all completely familiar with. Just every now and then, it's good to, I don't know how this happens, but it's happened to me during some sessions where for some reason it flicks from me sending a chat to everyone, a message to everyone, to singling out one particular person. So that's just a little tip. I did this once, and the person who I had, unbeknownst to me, been sending all my messages to, messaged me at the end, quite perplexed. So just a little tip there. May not be relevant, but yeah. Okay. So some other reasons why, or other applications, what's the word? Pointing to the value of the emotional check-in. Obviously, I said it's great when you want to be able to share, you want to be able to create a moment of empathy in the group. It's very difficult when most of us are working remotely. we want to be able to express empathy. We want others to express it to us, but it's difficult when you don't have that same ability to read people's body language. By inviting the response, not expecting it, making it really okay that if you don't want to put in a word that expresses how you're feeling right now, you can put whatever word you want. So you at the one time inviting people to be safe to express themselves, but also respecting their privacy. Best to enforce a time limit on it so people do bypass the label they've given, maybe the story they've got. Just bypass the thinking and just go straight to the gut. What's that word? And it may be a completely out of the blue. They're not even sure why they've written it, and that's okay. What else was there? When you've got either the screen, as I said before, with the renames, or the chat box with all those different feelings, or as Laura was reading them out before, you do start to get a sense of the feeling of the group. And if you're feeling a little bit alone in your feeling of being overwhelmed, and you pick up that 2 or 3 other people in the room are also, it's incredibly validating. So yeah, I think that's worth noting, just again around that empathy and understanding of each other without having to go into too much detail. Okay, next slide. So that's just a recap, the rename, the 2 words. These are a few other techniques. The mood, rating your mood from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Bit of a pop culture, fanatics one. Is there a song, a movie, or a book that describes your current mood at the moment? I can never remember titles of books, so that wouldn't work for me, but sometimes it just comes into your mind. Rosebud Thorn, I think that one's a sweet one too. Yeah, something that is great that's happened to you, a rose, something you're looking forward to, a bud, and something that happened to you today that wasn't so great, a thorn. Okay, next slide. Remember, these are notes in the PowerPoint that you'll all get a copy of. Okay, the next part, cultivating an attitude of curiosity, compassion, and courage. It shouldn't be difficult, as opposed to the many learned behaviours we pick up along the way. We are born with these 3 basic principles built into us: curiosity, compassion, and courage. I think that's really, really worth remembering. When we're asking ourselves or others questions, when we want to learn new things, when we want to improve the way we do things and the outcomes of what we do, we're being curious. When we are curious, we are 50% of the way to being compassionate. When we help friends to get up if they fall, when we give hugs if someone seems sad, we're being compassionate. It takes courage to do what we're called to do. When we're children, looking at the world with new eyes, climbing without fear of falling, attempting new things with no thought to the consequences, again, we're being courageous. At the root of many challenges that we're facing in life is the learnt response to fear change. And unbeknownst to us, this fear of change has a significant impact on our innate capacities for curiosity, compassion, and courage. So it's not that fear is wrong, it just has an impact that we need to be aware of. Next slide. So I don't want to spend much time on this. It just starts to give you a little bit of a language too for what we're aiming to reclaim: curiosity, compassion, and courage, and what their darker sides, if you like, are or can be. And that wholehearted collaboration might be with yourself or with another. So how you're relating to yourself, how you're relating to others. Next slide. Okay, this is the second poll. So basically what I want you to be as honest as you can in doing here is choose from a list of 10 that Laura's going to give you of feeling states, and choose which one best describes your most typical, not the one you every time, or just your most typical response to change, first response to change. Now, as you're thinking about this, Laura is going to take you through. If I could share screen, I would. That cat pics. Okay. All right. Now, not all of these, because she's sharing screen, it's a different presentation, but that's okay. Not all of these will appear in that those options. But those options are in here somewhere. All right, so Laura, how are we going with people having selected which one is most difficult?
Yes, I will end the poll and share the results.
Okay. So, what have we got here? Okay, so anxious and optimistic seem to be dead heat. That's interesting. And a whole lot in between. Gosh, it's interesting how they're at the beginning at the end. So that is a pretty good spread. I don't mean good as in, good and bad, wrong and right, but just, it's an interesting observation of we're always at the range, and this can also as much as it can reflect the group, it can reflect the individual too. So on the same day you can switch from being anxious to optimistic. It goes back to that that awareness that we can have what seem to be contradictory feelings, but they're just playing, dancing with each other. Not sure where to take them, but just great to just be aware of both of them. So fantastic. I hope you like the cat pictures. They took quite a while to find, and it's strange how I did go by the fact that I think cats are the most Googled thing on the internet, which I just find bizarre. But the images of those cats did do something to help me conjure up those sort of feeling states, trying to encourage people to relate to them all as they're, I'd say they're very, I can't say they're human responses, they're shared responses of feeling beings. That's what it is. Okay, next slide. Fear. No, I can't actually remember whether fear can be a combination of feeling states. It's more it can be more an emotional state, which brings in different feelings. And throughout this year, I think lots of things have happened to just sort of the uncertainty, just to how can I put this? When the nervous system gets overwrought, and that fear, that flight, fight, flight, or freeze response. I think all of you can feel the different times you'll go into one or other of those, if you're aware of those fight, flight, and freeze responses to fear. It's really useful. Okay, just a couple of points there about fears. It can be about an actual loss or a perceived loss, or an impending loss. And although you need to be very careful about expectations you have of asking people to share those. If you're able to give the support, if you're skilled enough to give the support, then great. I think we've just lost shared screen for a minute. Okay, it'll come back in a second, I'm sure. All right, moving on from fear. Okay, underneath fear is a heck of a lot of uncertainty. I've lost the shared screen again. That's okay. Resume slideshow. So uncertainty, I think we'll get it in a minute. This is a beautiful Lunig cartoon that I dug up from my many Lunig books about sitting on the fence. Come sit down beside me, I said to myself, and although it doesn't make sense, I hold my own hand as a small sign of trust, and together I sat on the fence. How we manage fear depends a lot on how we relate to uncertainty. Uncertainty can be a safe catch-all of feeling states that arises in us in the face of change. By association, though, a lot about how we respond to uncertainty influences how we relate to change. Even though by itself uncertainty and change are neutral, after we've finished reacting to and judging them, they can often feel far from neutral. Bring the curiosity, compassion, and courage of a mindful approach to looking at the role and impact of uncertainty and change in our lives can make them a whole lot easier to deal with. So drawing on those mindful attitudes now, I'd just like to ask, when you think it is okay to sit on the fence with uncertainty, I feel like there's some different scenarios that really warrant it, but I'd just like to see, is there anyone who would like to put in the chat when you think it is okay to sit on the fence, just like Lunig's cartoon is suggesting. To see if any come up. Maybe they don't. I've got a few I can read out. When you're confused, when it's too soon to know, whenever you need to. I like that one. When you're in an emotional state, I actually can't read all of them. I hope others are following the chat. When you're upset. Yep. Which is what Lunig would say. So yeah, when we don't have the information we need, when the arguments on both sides, we're having with ourselves, we're having with someone else, seem both potent, seem both true, time out, sitting on the fence for time out. Yep. and I was going to say, if it's okay, I'd like you to consider when you're uncomfortable sitting on the fence. Just think for a moment or reflect. Is the issue more about how long you sit on the fence for? Is a good question for you. How long is too long? Do you have a sense of whether fear of making a bad or a wrong decision, or fear of change itself, may be leading you to sit on the fence for too long? Good questions to ask yourself, or ask a team. Is there an issue about trusting your gut, leading you to sit on the fence, maybe for a little bit too long? Just good reflection questions. Okay, next slide. Practice of waking up. As with everything, you will know that even the waking up is transient, and that will be okay. That might seem quite obscure to some people, but it's a really useful statement to reflect on over time. The more you can practice, if you are committed, if you would like to learn more about mindfulness, this foundation is just that, just a foundation. You really need to learn by experiencing it. And then, having said that, I want you to do a meditation exercise right now. Now, where will I get you to start? So you're sitting down. You can do this with your eyes open or your eyes closed. If you do decide to keep your eyes open, just try and soften your gaze on something in front of you. Don't stare at the screen. Maybe just tilt your chair a little bit around to the edge. If you've got a window, look out your window. But if you're happy keeping your eyes closed or closing your eyes, then yeah, that's good too. Sitting comfortably with your back straight, supported as necessary. Both feet touching the floor. Placing your hands on top of one another on your lap. Palms facing up. Feel their soft touch. Feel a sense of your hands beginning to relax. Now think about how busy your hands have been today. What have they been doing? Cooking, cleaning, dressing. Do you notice that you can't think about and feel your hands at the same time? Now, hands still placed on your lap. Can you bring your attention to your shoulders? Can you drop them just a little? Sense the space that opens up around your neck. Feel any knots you may have come into your shoulders. Think about what may have caused those knots today, over the past few days. No judgments. Just reflect with a little curiosity and kindness. Again, can you notice you can't think about and feel your shoulders at the same time? Now return to feeling once more. Can you feel your feet touching the ground? Wiggle your toes just slightly. Can you sense all your toes wrapped up in your shoes? Or maybe just free falling without shoes on? Now think about the miles you've walked most likely around your home, traveling from one room to the next, completing tasks relevant to each room, forgetting what task you were doing, having to retrace your steps to remember. Again, can you notice that you're no longer feeling your feet while you're thinking about them? Now a couple of steadying breaths in and out. Can you now return to the feelings, to feeling the sensations in your hands, your shoulders, your feet? Can you feel them relaxing? Can you feel or sense that relaxation, that relaxed feeling migrating to other parts of your body? Even if only for a moment. Now bring your attention back to your breathing. As we touched on earlier, there is a variety of techniques for anchoring your attention to your breath. Right now, nothing to do. Just breathe a few steadying breaths. Now I'd like you to deepen your breathing and access your parasympathetic nervous system. To do this, though, you need to extend your exhalation. Often in that fight, flight, freeze, fear response, we have trouble exhaling. People have different rhythms. So whatever you count on your in-breath, for some it might be just 2, some it might be 4, 6. Count 2 or 3 more on your exhalation. So it might be 1, 2, and then on the exhalation, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whatever feels right for you, just do a couple of those on your own. Just feel that out breath extending. These are simple practices in focus, in waking up. After your next long inhalation and exhalation, when you're ready, gently open your eyes several times if necessary. Return your attention to face outwardly once more. And if you've got any questions or comments, please put them in the chat box. Okay. I am looking at the time and we have 5 minutes. My goodness, that's what happens. There are so many other things that I'd like to be talking to you about, but thankfully, we're going to be able to have them in the PowerPoint that gets distributed to you. But I'd like if you could flick through the next screens, Laura, just so, okay. So just, cultivating both awareness in the current moment and attitudes of curiosity, as I said earlier, compassion and courage, is a process of reclaiming more than learning. The next slide. The more relaxed you are in your body and the more relaxed your breath, the more relaxed your breath, the more relaxed your mind, your heart, and your relationship with your life. I don't think we've got time for this now, but this is a lovely quote on gratitude, nourishment, and community. Stay close to anything that makes you glad you're alive. I have this beautiful Persian poet. Was going to do a loving kindness meditation, but do you know what? I think I might include that text for that in the PowerPoint so that you could even record yourself saying it and then listen to yourself. It's a beautiful, beautiful script. So the dance of change, never done on your own. Here you are all doing it with each other in this section. Next. Yes, the dance of change can be quite fascinating. Next. Some more resources. Next slides. Sorry, next. The feeling wheel, great for language. Some more ideas. Yep, no, that's okay, keep going. Some more ideas about some mindfulness techniques and just little tips. Next. A bit of a worksheet. Which is also great if you want to sort of think about it. Thinking is not the enemy. It's just being aware of when you're doing it and when you actually want to be feeling. Every pot needs to be replanted now and again if it's going to grow. So I say take care and I say thank you for your participation today. And are there any questions or comments now, because we've got 3 minutes. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Anna. We'll just check the chat box if anybody has a specific question for Anna while she's with us today. People have really enjoyed the presentation. It's not a surprise. I know I'm certainly feeling both more relaxed but also more focused. That was a great exercise, that meditation. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm. That's all right.
I should be doing this every day, of course.
Should. It's about, yeah, I guess even however many times we use that word in our day, just to be aware of that. That's a mindfulness practice in itself. Just being aware of how much we attach to judgments about ourselves. Just feel it, let it go. Maybe you think you need to, and I know I need to do it more often, but I do it whenever I can. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to going through the resources. Would love it. Another session, part 2.
Right.
Anna, you have a very relaxing voice. Would you be happy to record an audio version of the meditation script you send?
Oh.
And somebody said, what do you think of music in the background whilst being mindful?
So it depends on how suggestive the music is. So I've got a lot of musical tracks that I use purposely, I guess. So if the music is instrumental, then that's not going to be as distracting. I'm not going to be going into storylines. If the music has got a storyline that is touching on something that I actually want to feel a bit more deeply into, then I would use that. It really depends on the person. So some people can find music incredibly distracting and they really just need that silence. Some people need that silence and they don't know yet that they need that silence. Mm-hmm. So their way into it is just the music. And really, as that previous slide said, you really do... The link between relaxation and mindfulness is that one state prepares you better for the next. It's not a prerequisite, but it prepares you more for it. So if music is your way of relaxing, then you are preparing yourself to use that mindfulness practice for either focusing on something or creating the spaciousness so that focus can come into whatever it is that you need to be aware of at that time.
Lovely. Thanks, Anna. Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing all of your mindfulness strategies in such a fun but also practical and quite enlightening way. And of course, I think everybody loved your cat pics. What a great way to reflect emotions and feelings. So thank you to everybody for joining us today, and of course for your ongoing support and work for the Victorian adult and community education sector. Keep your eyes peeled for the next couple of webinars that we've got coming up in this series. We've got the Using Drama Techniques in Teaching Literacy, Numeracy and Language. That runs over 2 sessions on the 28th of October and the 4th of November. And on the following webinar on the 19th of November is going to be looking at some quality innovative programs that Learn Locals have used this year to share across the sector. And so don't forget to save the date for the 10th of December when we'll have our celebration and acknowledgement of this year. So a big thank you to everyone. Once again to Laura, thank you for ensuring that all these sessions run smoothly. And also once again, thank you to the ACFI board for both your leadership and also your care and concern for the sector, and also thank you to the Department of Education and Training. So please stay well and safe, and don't hesitate to reach out to ACEVIC if we can offer any support in any way. So thank you for coming today and look forward to seeing you again. Okay.